Hello class, today we're going to be doing our video notes on lesson 5.5, how to solve inequalities using division and multiplication. Alright, so to start off we want to get one definition down here. So our definition for the day is the division and multiplication property of inequalities. So this property tells us that when we divide or multiply by a negative number across an inequality, we have to flip the sign of the inequality. So this means if we are multiplying a negative across a greater than sign, then this greater than is going to become a less than sign. And if we're multiplying a negative across a less than sign, then this less than sign will become a greater than sign. So let's do an example for this here. So if we were to say negative x is less than 5, well, to solve this problem, we would have to multiply a negative 1 by both sides, or divide by negative 1, actually, either one works here. Now, this is what changes. Our less than sign right here will now become a greater than sign. We'll still multiply our negative 1 times our 5. So this is the exact same process we use when we're solving equations. However, now, the only thing we need to remember is that when we multiply or divide by a negative number, we're going to remember to flip our signs. And this is, of course, true also if this is a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to sign. The main thing is when you divide or multiply by a negative, you flip your signs. All right, so let's go into our key concept for today. So solving inequalities with multiplication or division is the exact same as solving equations by multiplication or division, just like how solving with addition or subtraction was the exact same. The one key thing to remember is when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign of the inequality. All right, we have to remember that. That's one of the hardest things to remember in this, but we're going to try to practice, so that's always going to be in the back of our heads. So, for example, let's solve the equation 3/4 x plus 6 is less than 3. All right, so I'll make a line down here as I always do. Now, just like with equations, we want to start with our constant here. We want to start with a whole value. So I'm going to subtract a 6 from both sides of our equation here. So now 6 minus 6 is 0. So on the left side of our equation, we have a 3/4 x. And on the right side of our equation, 3 minus 6 will give us a negative 3. All right, now to get rid of this fraction 3/4, I of course need to multiply by 4/3. Now here you can see we are multiplying across our inequality sign here, but it's not by a negative number, so we don't have to worry about flipping our sign. So our 4/3 will cancel out with our 3/4 to give us just 1x. So our left side of our equation now 1x. And the right side of our equation, well, this is a 3/1, so we're basically just going to follow our rules of multiplying fractions here. We can cross cancel these 3's. So on the left we have a negative 1, and on the right we have a 4. So this would just be less than negative 4. So x is less than negative 4. All right, so key things to remember there. We started with subtracting the constant, and then we went to the dividing by the fraction. However, we noticed that we did not have a negative sign, so we didn't have to worry about flipping our inequality sign. All right, next we want to solve negative 1/2 x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 6. So again, we'll draw our line down to start. Now, since we're starting with a constant, we can subtract a 4 from both sides of our equation here. So the left side will be left with a negative 1/2 x, and on the right side, a 6 minus 4 is a 2. All right, next we need to multiply by a 2/1 to cancel out this 1/2 here. So since we're multiplying by negative 2/1, this is our first instance where we're going to have to flip our sign. So here we're going to flip from a greater than or equal to a less than or equal to sign. And I'll even put that in red here so that way we can see this happens. And again, this is a trick that gets a lot of people. You guys will probably be forgetting this for years to come, just like I was forgetting this for years to become. But that's so much important as to why we're learning it now. All right, so negative 2/1 times negative 1/2 will just give us a 1x, because a negative times a negative will give us a positive. And then we're also multiplying this 2 by negative 2. So 2 times negative 2 will give us a negative 4. So x is less than or equal to negative 4. Notice how we started at a greater than or equal to sign, and we ended at a less than or equal to sign, where x did not change sides, but since we multiplied by a negative number, we had to switch it. All right, got a few more examples here. So we want to solve negative 3x plus 2 is greater than 8. All right, so again, we're going to draw our line down here. Now I can subtract a 2 from both sides. So 2 minus 2 is 0. So on the left side, we have a negative 3x is greater than, and 8 minus 2 will give us 6. All right, now we're dividing by a negative 3 here, right? So what are we going to do? Hopefully you're all thinking, flip the sign, Mr. Carbone, and that's what we're doing. We're going to flip the sign right here. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just a 1, so on our left side of the equation we have an x, and on the right side of the equation, 6 divided by negative 3 will give us negative 2. So here x is less than negative 2. And again, notice how we went from a positive greater than, how we just went from a greater than sign, multiplied by a negative number right here, or rather divided by a negative number, and then we ended up at a less than sign. So we started at greater than, ended at less than, because we were dividing by that negative number. All right, one more example for us here. We have 4 is less than or equal to negative x plus 5. All right, so now the x is on the right side of the equation, but that doesn't change how we're going to solve this. So we can still draw a line straight down. We want to get rid of this 5, so we'll subtract a 6 from both sides. So 4 minus, we don't want to subtract a 6. That's not how math works. Apologize. All right, so we want to subtract a 5 to get rid of 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0, not 5 minus 6. So subtract a 5 from both sides of our equation here. Now 4 minus 5 will give us a negative 1, and that'll be less than or equal to, and 5 minus 5 is 0, so on the left side we just have a negative x. All right, now we got to get rid of this negative 1 here. So we can either divide by negative 1 or multiply by negative 1. It's the exact same thing. So we'll just divide by negative 1 here. So on the right side of the equation, negative x divided by negative 1 is just x. Now we're going to flip this equation here because we're dividing by a negative. So this has now become a greater than or equal to. And then negative 1 divided by negative 1 is, of course, just 1. So we have x is less than or equal to 1, or 1 is greater than or equal to x. Again, key things to remember is we went from a less than or equal to sign to a greater than or equal to sign because of this step right here where we divided by the negative 1. That'll always be important to remember. I'm going to try to get you guys on that in the future, trying to throw some tricks out there. All right. So our conclusion for today, multiplying and dividing inequalities is practically the same as solving equations. However, the key thing to remember is when you multiply or divide by a negative number across an inequality, you must flip the sign of the inequality. So make sure we're remembering that and make sure we're getting these inequalities down here. You guys did so well in equations, so we want to make sure we keep that energy going through inequalities here. Alrighty, everybody. Good luck on your 4 video note questions. I will see you all in class tomorrow. Bye-bye, team.